Hi, welcome to the artisan business community. I'm so glad you're here. So, today we're talking about what artisan business is as a company. Where did it start? What is the history? What is it all about? Basically, it was started in 2017 by myself. And I'll tell you a little bit about how I came to doing this and why. But first, we've been in business since 2017, and our goal, our mission and vision has always been to help artists create profitable, sustainable online businesses with and for their art. Now, the reason that was so important to me is because I come from a family of artists, and I myself am an artist of sorts as well. When I was younger, my father, who was a painter and sculptor and also a high school art teacher in the inner city of Youngstown, Ohio for 35 years, he had me painting from when I was 2 years old. I had my own little easel. I learned how to draw three-dimensional objects at that age. I learned how to paint with watercolors, acrylics, oils right next to him in the garage, in the basement, drawing on paper together, drawing hands, which is the hardest thing to draw in the world. You name it, I was in it to win it with him. Loved it. I loved every moment of it. And it wasn't until I was in about second grade, I was 7 years old, going on 8, when our family doctor noticed that I had scoliosis forming in my back. Now, scoliosis runs in my mom's side of the family rampant. The women especially have very severe curvatures of the spine, and it can be very dangerous. My mom has a double scoliosis. She has a C curve and an S curve. And my Aunt Maureen has a steel rod in her back from when she was younger. So it's no joke. And so the doctor said to my mom, put her in ballet class because it will correct it at this age. And so my mom did exactly that. Now, that tale of me going into dance as the kid that I was at age 7 going on 8 was a whole other story in and of itself, because I got put into tap, ballet, and jazz all at the same time. And not only was I uncoordinated, but I was stiff as a board and had the hardest time keeping up in class with the other girls who had tons of flexibility, picked up on the steps right away, and had been doing this for a lot longer than I had. So immediately I tried to get through a couple of classes, and I told my parents that I wanted to quit. I was so not happy. And my dad sat me down, both my parents did, but specifically my dad, and honed in. And he said to me, Alexis, if you practice, you will get better. This is going to be an amazing opportunity for you to see that. So stay in it. We're here to support you. You have all the support you need, but give it a try and see what happens. So I did. And I'm going to tell you, it was a struggle from the start. But at the end of that year, that school year, there was always a dance recital. And it was my first recital. And my tap class, which I loved the most. Tap is so near and dear to my heart. My dad had built me a little tap floor to practice in our basement because I was having the hardest time remembering the routine and the steps for the routine for our dance recital. The song was to Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy. I will never forget this, and I remember the whole routine to this day because I practiced so hard that by the time we got to standing in the wing of the theater, ready to go on, waiting for the music cue and the lights to go up, I was shaking like a leaf because I was the shyest kid in the whole entire world. And going on stage with hundreds of people in the audience was beyond horrifying to me. But I practiced that routine to the point where when those lights went up and the music came on, I was on and lit up. In fact, I stood out more than all the other dancers because I just put my whole heart and soul into that routine, and another side of me was born in that moment. And I remember thinking on stage in the middle of that routine that I wanted to do this for the rest of my life because it was the feeling of accomplishment, of working so hard for something that I thought I was never, ever going to see results for, to knowing, not just thinking, but knowing in the moment that I was killing it and nobody could tell me anything other. I knew it for a fact. And afterwards, I was met by my whole entire family who confirmed that for me, and other parents who were coming up to me saying that they were so proud of me, that I had done such an incredible job. I really felt like a new person. And it gave me a specific outlook on life, that practice does not make perfect. Practice makes present. As my mentor and coach and very, very dear friend, Michelle Colt, always says, practice makes present. It put me right into the present moment to realize what my potential was. And it also made me realize that everyone has to work hard, no matter how good they are naturally, for what it is they want to accomplish. So it was in that moment that I decided that dance was going to be my path in life. And when I graduated from high school, I took my studies very seriously. My parents were very adamant about me focusing on that. That was no problem for me. I was a really good student naturally, and I loved school. And when I graduated, I had a journalism scholarship to go to university. And the moment I got there, I did think I was going to take that path. You know, dance was what I was really into all through middle school and high school. But when I got to university, I realized I wasn't done with my dance path, and I was going to really see it through as a career. So I switched majors. And I remember the first day of ballet technique class in undergrad, our professor, there were about 30 of us in this class. And our professor said to us, as we were standing at the bar with our leotards on, with our shoes on, ready to go, she said, "You're all going to be so happy for the rest of your lives as dancers because it's the best life to live. You're going to be really broke, but you're going to be really happy." And in that moment, I had such an epiphany because my stomach turned into one big knot. I looked around me. The other dancers were laughing because it was meant to be a joke. And to me, it was not funny at all. I found no humor in it whatsoever. I had to leave the room, stand outside, and I realized my epiphany was that not only was I going to see dance through as a path, but my path was going to be very specific with the intention of figuring out how to not let that happen. And I was committed and devoted myself in that moment to coming back at some point to talk to the younger dancers in that exact classroom to show them how not to let that happen, how not to let yourself go broke doing what you were meant to do in this lifetime as an artist. So I didn't know how it was going to take shape. But I graduated, I moved to Chicago. I did a lot of choreography for theater companies. I went to Europe and danced in Eastern Europe, where my family is from in Hungary and Prague. Came back, went to grad school to NYU and focused on cross-cultural dance and theater with a focus on classical Indian dance because I was teaching yoga at the time. So I was immersed in Indian culture. My thesis was on a comparative study between Bharatanatyam and Kathakali, forms of dance and theater, and American modern dance and American modern theater. So it was an absolute pleasure, privilege, and joy to dig into that and then see that through with the performance art that I was able to do here in New York City. But it was always in the back of my mind that I had made this vow to figure out what I needed to do to support myself. Now, I was always either working in a restaurant or working in some sort of a sales position on the side. And I got a job running a fashion showroom in Chelsea. And I remember what an honor it was to do that because I loved being involved in that creative space and environment. And I also had a very flexible schedule so I could go do my shows, produce, write, perform, whatever, audition, whenever I needed. It came a time, though, where after 4 years of doing that, I realized that I wasn't going to go anywhere. I'd hit a ceiling. And I remembered again this vow I made to myself that I was going to figure out how to just do my art and create a business around that so I didn't have to worry. And that is exactly what I set out to do. Artisan Business was born out of that. I first created an online t-shirt company that was designed to help other artists get their designs out into the world. It was design based and it failed within the first 11 months, although the plan was outstanding. The financial part of running that business was not firmly in place. And it goes to show how important that is because as a first time business owner, I didn't realize the ramifications that would have on everything if I didn't know exactly how to do that. And luckily, thankfully, I found a mentor who plucked me out of a group and said, I want you to come and work for me at my PR company. And he sat down with me to see where I went wrong in that original plan. And it was like a lifesaver because he not only showed me where I went wrong, but I put it into practice through his company because I was hired to help high-end charities reach their fundraising goals online through online marketing. And after that, I started to acquire my own clients. And I worked as a freelancer for 6 different pretty big companies, helping them grow their revenue online through online marketing for 6 years. And all the while on the side, I kept saying, okay, I'm ready to start this just for artists. I've done it for myself. I see how to do it for other businesses. Let's just put this underway. And I started a Facebook group of artists. There were about 500 in the group on the side. When at the end of 2016, my dad got really sick. And I had a feeling that he wasn't going to be with us for much longer. And I made a very serious pivot in that moment, a decision that I knew I would never regret, which was to move in this direction that I committed myself to help other artists understand how to grow their businesses. And so at the beginning of 2017, I launched Artists in Business. And we had our first course launch that year in May. It was an incredible experience. We enrolled a bunch of people, a bunch of artists who now some of them are making 6 and 7 figures. And my dad got to see that. And then he passed away a little bit later that year. Ever since then, Artists in Business has been committed to refining the way we help artists grow businesses online that are long-term and sustainable. That's the key for us. Now, that has gone through 3 separate iterations to bring us to where we are now, which is offering a mentorship, not a course. So the first iteration of Artists in Business was we offered a course. And I'm so proud of that course because the material in that course enabled so many artists to grow 5, 6, and now 7-figure businesses. It's unbelievable. And it's an unbelievable privilege to have created that and seen that through. The second iteration was understanding how to do a hybrid of a mentorship and a course so that we could give our artists more support, especially those who were having challenge around the key areas that you have to have a specific skill set in, which is content, copywriting, tech, lead generation, and testing an offer, not to mention putting your strategy together. So we did a hybrid version of it. And that led us to refine even further to what we have now, which is a bespoke mentorship program where we work with each artist individually from start to finish in both doing it for you and doing it with you as partners. So I'm really excited to share what that looks like now and, how we got to that point in our journey. But for now, I have one question for you, and I'd love to know the answer to this. What is one way you specifically know you need to grow your business with your art? What I mean by that is you know that you have a specific vision that you would like to fulfill. And let's say you haven't thought about that, but you know it's in your heart of hearts, right? It's in the back of your mind. If you had no limitations, what kind of an impact would you like to have and why? That's the answer I'm looking for because honestly, that's what it takes to grow a successful art business is your understanding of that and being able to articulate that, not just for anyone else, but for yourself first. And if you can do that, then that conviction and that clarity of vision for your work as an artist is going to make it so easy for anyone to help you in the right way who knows what they're doing build that business out, whether it's us or anybody else. So that's my question. Can't wait to see what your answer is. Please share below and let's keep this conversation rolling because these are really, really important for you to understand where to begin and not move in a direction that isn't going to serve you in the here and now. Can't wait to see what you have to share.